Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Hey. Do 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 do. Do do. Sa. Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love, to Astro Phoenix, flying into the moment yet again and radiating love as always. And welcome to this channeled message for today, April 26th of 2020. How's your weekend been? How's your day going? How's your Sunday been? I've had a good weekend. Today was actually past few days, I've just been in a good mood. It's been chill, good energy, good vibes, good mood. Despite everything that's going on in the world, I just been feeling good, and I'm feeling, a little bit more uplifted, a little bit more motivated these past couple of days, and just I don't know, maybe kind of getting back on track. But as you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about there goes my country slip. It happens. We're going to be talking about quite a few things. We're going to be talking about protection. We're going to be talking about, taking your power back. And we're going to be talking about, the new gods and angels, the rise of the new gods and the new angels, because this is all happening. So I will keep busy. So loudly, right? Inside jokes. I guess not inside anymore because I'm talking about it in here. But anyways, I hope that you all are having a good weekend. I hope that you all have a blessed week. Hope that you guys are doing what you can to make it through these times, staying safe, staying healthy, exercising, eating well, drinking plenty of water, getting plenty of rest, enjoying this time with your family, enjoying this time with yourself, because that's really what this is all about. This is a major reset. It's a major reset button. So this video is sponsored by quite a few things, but I was driving on the way back home from working, been doing the grocery delivery services, and I was driving on the way back, and I just had like this feeling, this intuition coming through about gods and angels, about protection and these things. And a lot of this was because of what I experienced this morning. Now, if you have been on my channel for quite some time, or if you're new, I'll go ahead and reiterate. I talk a lot about dreams, astral projection. I talk a lot about that sort of in-between state between awake and asleep. And it's within that realm, within that pocket, that a lot of my spiritual experiences happen. I do lucid dream and I do astral project on occasion. I don't really astral project that much now. I think it's a lot because, I think it's my guides, my angels are protecting me. But they do allow me to go into this in-between state, right? Like kind of right as like my body's like entering into my spirit's entering back into my body, right? Or body into spirit. I don't think it's really the other way around. It's probably body into spirit. But as that aspect of my consciousness is entering into this physical vessel, let's just say that, I experience a lot of different things there. I get voices, I hear clear things, I see things. Sometimes the things I see are weird, sometimes the things that I hear are weird. But this morning, I had woken up from these rather interesting and very fun dreams. I had two dreams kind of back to back, and they were pretty much the same dream, except that the second one was kind of like a remix of the first dream. It was kind of weird. I was like flying around and doing a bunch of stuff. I was like a superhero, and I had to I was like in this like weird, I had to like save these people from this like hostage situation. It was rather intense. But when I went into that in-between state, right, there was some things that kind of came through that I was really surprised about. And it was really just clear voices. It's a very clear voice. It was very adamant. It was very direct. It was a very, just honest energy. It was a voice that was just sort of like wanting to take control. And I don't remember quite everything that I heard, but it was pretty much along the gist of, you're not going to mess with me. You're not going to, I didn't even really hear me. I heard him more. You're not going to mess with him. You're not going to fuck with them, you know? And it was almost as if there was an aspect of my consciousness, or maybe it was my angels or guides. Perhaps were speaking to some type of being that might have been trying to hijack my energy in that moment. And they were protecting me. And it almost gave me the sense of getting my power back. It was very strange. But this voice that I heard was very clear and very upfront about the intentions of, like, taking my power back, knowing that I'm protected, and not succumbing to any of the, pitfalls or any of the fear. That's really what it was. It was like really not succumbing to the fear. And there's a lot of fear right now in the world. Some of it rightly so, justified. Some of it is a little bit more manipulated and created. But there's a lot of it going around. And as I thought about this throughout the day, and as it continues until now, what I get this sense of is this whole thing of getting my power back, and how I was protected by these celestial beings, call them my guides or my angels, pretty much saying to whatever was trying to hijack my energy, whether it was fear or some type of other lower vibrational entity, maybe even an aspect of myself, pretty much saying that you have no power here. And I want to let you all know that this is something that is not unique to me, but to all of you. Each and every single one of you have guides and angels that are looking out for you and are protecting you. And a lot of times they won't make themselves known. But they may communicate to you in very subtle ways. For me, it just happened to be in that in-between state that I was experiencing. And I just want to let you all know that you have that too. You are protected. When it comes to protection energy, we really can kind of put it under the domain of Scorpio energy. It's about, protecting and keeping things guarded, maybe even secret. But protection usually comes under that realm of Scorpio, right? Of course, we don't have any energy there. We can look at Pluto, though. Pluto in Capricorn. And I'm going to talk more about Pluto in this video and about Saturn, because I think it comes all full circle. But everyone has Pluto somewhere in their chart. I have Pluto in the 12th house. So that's, even though the 12th house is about hidden enemies, I also feel that I actually have a lot of protection in my dream state and in those astral planes of existence. And you do too. But like I said, you want to kind of see where Pluto is in your chart. This is actually a moment that is going to allow a lot of us to take our power back. And it's interesting because taking our power back has to come off of the hills of feeling powerless. A lot of people right now in the world do feel powerless. Even those who may be studying the esoteric information, even though people that may be getting their information about the news from alternative media and sources. I do feel like everyone has this sort of feeling or element to them of powerlessness. Now, it can be to certain degrees, because truly, we don't really know what's going to happen. Right? We can predict and all these sort of things, but it really is a sort of day-to-day kind of energy, because a lot of you all, some of you all have like your own businesses and stuff, but a lot of you don't. Some of you guys may not be working or haven't been working for quite a while. And we don't really know what's going to happen when things, quote unquote, get back to normal. When they get back to quote unquote normal. And what I'm kind of feeling is that it's not about getting back to normal. It's getting back to what is natural. It's about what's getting back to natural. I actually do believe that we can utilize technology in a way that is cohesive with nature. Right now, it's not cohesive, but I do believe that we can create technology and a system that is cohesive with nature. It does not take from nature, but is in a symbiotic relationship with nature. I do believe that we can do that. But everyone, like I said, at this point, there is this, you don't really know what the future holds. So, and we are beings that really like to know what the future holds. We like to know. We try to project certain trends. We try to give ourselves some sort of sense of security and comfort. And yes, there are people out there that, despite what's going on, do have a sort of sense of comfort, materiality, and financially wise because of the decisions that they made up until that point. But everyone is getting affected, even those who do have a lot of money and can actually afford to be out of work. Because it comes down, and a lot of people I think are realizing that even if they're not millionaires or even 100,000aires, that they still have a roof over their head, they can still get food, they can still get water, and that's a blessing because a lot of people don't have that. If you're listening to this, you more than likely have all that. You may not be a millionaire, but you have all that. So material comforts and security, a lot of that is taken care of for the vast majority of us, especially those listening to this. But what about the emotional and spiritual, the mental security? That is what is quite unsure at this time, which is why we are all finding ourselves in this sort of reset period. So when things do return back to quote unquote normal, there's no way people can really go back to that because of all of these different energies, these emotions and thoughts that they have had or have been exposed to during this time. A lot of people are not going to go back to their same jobs, or if they do, they won't be there that long because they're going to realize how much they really did not like it. A lot of people are actually going to go for what they want. So getting our power back would mean that we didn't have the power before, right? Now, we always had the power. We only have the illusion of the powerlessness, right? Feeling like we don't have anything, feeling the lack. That's a sort of Five of Pentacles kind of energy. On the outside looking in, not being included, not being invited to the party, right? But each and every one of us, we are actually getting our power back. And it's going to mainly come off the heels of a greater sense of mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and of course, physical health. Because of what's going on right now, people are realizing that they really do need to stay in shape, eat better, drink plenty of water, you know. But a lot of it is in the mental realms too, and the emotional and spiritual realms, because most diseases start there, and then the physical realm is the last spot that they really show up at. So we can, take all of those precautions, of course, eating well, drinking well, trying to stay healthy and stuff, but we still have to address those other realms. But you're getting your power back. You're not powerless. You're not powerless. Not by a long shot. You have Aries in your chart, right? Not that I'm not saying that power can't come from other parts of the chart, but I'm mostly going to associate it with Aries. That motor, that drive, that cardinal fire, you have it in your chart, right? You don't have any planets there? Oh, well, you still have a house there. You probably have some minor asteroids there that get triggered and you don't know about it, but you have it. No one can take away your power. They can only give you the illusion of your power being taken away. And that's when we feel the powerlessness. But as I've said, each and every one of us, we're getting our power back. Now, why does it hurt so much? Chiron. Chiron is in Aries. That's why it hurts so much this time. That's why it can feel like we're pulling teeth, pulling our hair out, trying to get this back. Right? Some of you, I'm just going to kind of paint a little metaphor, right? Some of you have sacred weapons and tools that you haven't had in a while, and you're going to actually get these tools back. Maybe you had to sell them metaphorically to make ends meet. Some of you have swords, war hammers, staffs. Some of you guys have spell books, whatever. I'm kind of thinking of like a fantasy like RPG type. Maybe you have like this incredible legendary sword that you used to slay your enemies with, but in order to make ends meet, got to a point where there was a level of peace, and then you had to sell this sword off because you needed to make ends meet, and now the battle and the wars are coming back up, and you need your sword, but now you can't find your sword. But here's the cool thing about it: it will come to you. It will just come to you and just respond to your energy and to your soul. I'm getting another image. There's an episode of Kim Possible where Ron Stoppable got invited to a ninja school, and there was a certain. It was called the Lotus Blade. It was a sword that only responded to certain people, and he quote unquote had lost it by the end of the episode. He had it at one point, but then he lost it, and then he went back to the sensei and was like, "I'm sorry, I lost the sword." And he was like, "No, you did not, because it'll respond to your call." So Ron was like, "Okay, Lotus Blade here. Come on, sword. Come on, boy, woohoo!" Like he did that, and the wind was blowing, and then the sword came back to him. Of course, it's a cartoon, and it was funny, and it tore off his clothes. But he got the sword back. He responded to him. So each and every one of you have a sort of sacred treasure or a power that you may feel is lost, but all you have to do is call it back home. All you have to do is call it back home, and it'll be right there, as if it had never left in the first place. You're getting your power back, and you are incredibly protected. I want to talk about the rise of the new gods and the new angels, because that's another thing. Many of you are actually in the process of stepping into these energies, being those new gods and those new angels. Many of you are actually stepping into this, and this life is a sort of curriculum. There's a certain curriculum that you have to pass in order to reach these. Of course, you don't necessarily have to sit down and be in a classroom and read books and write essays and present them to the class. But in a sense, you kind of are. But many of you are being trained to step into these positions of being the new gods and the new angels. There will be new gods of the sun, of the moon, of agriculture, of technology, of all of these different things. There will be new ones. And many of you are a part of this. Many of you are a part of this. And this is going to become a lot more prevalent, and it's going to become a lot more known in the upcoming years. To where I would say by the 2060s, you will look back on your life and you'll be like, wow, this was all preparing me for this role that I'm about to step into. This has all been preparing me for this moment. Because you got to think, when the 2060s, that's 40 years from now, many of us will be in our, 70s, 80s, some of us the 60s. But we're going to be on the back half of our life, unless they forgot a way to, increase human life expectancy to like 150 or something like that. But if they do that, you probably have to take a pill, and I'm not going to do that shit. I'm willing to expand it the natural way. And the longest I probably would want to go is like 120 something anyways. But a lot of us by the 2060s, when I am feeling that we're going to become aware of the roles and the sort of the things that we're kind of walking in, becoming the new gods and the new angels. It's going to come up around the 2060s. Now, we're going to really begin to see this when Neptune comes into Aries. Neptune's in Pisces right now, where it likes to be, at home. And Neptune, Pisces, is certainly a very spiritual kind of energy, right? Neptune will be coming into Aries in the mid-2020s, which means that there's going to be this whole new initiation and spark of spirituality, and a lot of it's going to come through the heels of just our actions. What is obvious, what is apparent to us, is not going to be as subtle. Many of you have been talking to your guides and angels and have been channeling them. By the time that Neptune comes into Aries, you're going to start seeing them. They're going to make themselves appear to you They've always been there, but it's going to happen. They'll make themselves appear to you by the time that Neptune comes into Aries. And it's going to be at this point where the seeds of that sort of consciousness, of that information, of that light, if you will, is going to actually begin to spark and take hold by the time that Neptune comes into Aries. And the new gods are going to be born. It's going to be Neptune and Aries. Now we have to look at this because I wanted to look back the last time that Neptune was in Aries. What was going on? So, that was, of course, around the time of the Civil War, right? What happened then is that there was a sort of rekindling of the gods then too, of the pantheon. But what had happened was Pluto, the planet of death, destruction, rebirth, had already gone through Aries prior to that moment. So this means that Neptune was kind of lagging behind Pluto at this point. Pluto was in Taurus at that time. Neptune was in Aries. Now, why is this important, right? Why is this important? As I said, Pluto does deal with protection energy. It does deal with destruction. And a lot of times, whatever sign that Pluto is in, it's kind of hard to build that sign up in that energy because Pluto is there. So even though we've had a lot of Capricorn energy, it's been kind of hard to build on that Capricorn energy because Pluto is a wrecking ball. But at the same time, Pluto is the border of the garden that keeps it intact and inside of that space. Pluto is the circle. It's that line around the circle, not the space within, but it's that line around the circle. It is that protection energy. It keeps things in that space, and it defines a sort of energy. It's fixed water. It defines a sort of energy. And it's interesting, like how can you fixate water? The only way that you can do it is if you put it in a glass or if you freeze it. That's the only way that you really can do it. But even then, ice can still move. Water can still move. Like if you go like to the Antarctic and the Arctic and stuff like that, you have like those ice rivers where they're actually moving and stuff. So even then, it's fluid in a sense. But you got to think back with the Civil War and this whole shifting of the New World, quote unquote, which back then, of course, the New World was the Americas, which Americas were always here, right? There was a sense of a rebirth of the gods. But unfortunately, a lot of that has been bastardized and hijacked. And now we have people worshiping gods or beings or spirits that aren't really down with the natural flow of things. And people are pretty much worshiping other human beings. That's where we kind of got fucked up. Now, Neptune will come into Aries in the 2020s, right? And Pluto will be coming into Aquarius around that time as well. So they're kind of moving together. By the time that Neptune finishes up in Aries, Pluto will actually I want to say it will still be in Aquarius actually by that time. But Pluto actually will eventually catch up to it. That's kind of the interesting thing about it, because Neptune, as far as like moving through the signs, is kind of moving a little bit slower. The further away it gets from Pisces, the longer it takes to move through a sign. So Neptune will move through Pisces faster than it does Virgo, for example. Now this is amazing because you would think that Neptune would kind of stay ahead of Pluto as far as like making an aspect to it. But by the time that they do aspect each other in a pretty strong aspect, which would be the square, mind you, it'll be the square, Neptune will actually be over in Gemini. Neptune will be in Gemini at the last degree of Gemini, and Pluto will be at the last degree of Pisces before they both ingress into Cancer and Aries, respectively. And that right there, my friends, does signal the beginning of a whole new cycle. Because when you think about it, mutable energy, it's, when you start with cardinal, then you go fixed, then you go mutable, then you start back over. So there's a cycle even within those. We have the four cardinal, we have the four fixed and the four mutable signs, but there's cycles within cycles. So there's going to be another cycle that ends there, especially with Pluto. You got to think Pluto, it takes 200 plus years to go around, like 240 something years to go around the chart, right? But for them both to make that square to each other at the last degrees of these mutable signs, the last mutable sign, Pisces, and the first mutable sign, Gemini, as they make that square, which is freaking insane. And then they ingress into Cancer and Aries, respectively. That means we would have had two transits of Neptune and Aries without Pluto having been there at the same time, anyways. Pluto went through Aries before Neptune got there, before the Civil War. This is a major, major breakthrough because, like I said, it's going to be around that time where a lot of you are going to realize the sort of path, the godly path that you are on. And this is not to say, that, people are going to just start worshiping you and all that sort of stuff, because there's a lot of confusion when it comes to that sort of energy. You got to understand, like, the true God, the one true God, is all loving and is all forgiving. It's a very beautiful kind of energy because no one is forsaken. And that God actually doesn't have the need to be worshipped. It doesn't have the need to be worshipped because that God already knows that it is everything and everything is it. So it doesn't have the need to be worshipped. It doesn't have the need for people to be in church and to pay tithes and sort of and stuff like that. It doesn't have the need for that. It doesn't have the need for sacrifices to be made. Sacrifices is Saturn, by the way. Sacrifices is Saturn. Most people are worshiping Saturn right now. They're not worshiping the sun. Most people are worshiping Saturn. So there is an entire legion of angels that are in the midst of being created right now. We're not really going to see them really pop up until after Pluto goes all the way through Aquarius. But I believe that each and every one of you will have a guardian angel that is, like I said, right now being in the midst of being created. And this angel is going to be very particular to you and your energy and your blueprint and your soul signature. Very particular to you. This is all happening right now. And it may sound weird and a bit out there and a bit crazy. But I just know, based off of that experience I had this morning, where it really did feel like something was fighting on my behalf, fighting for me, and believed in me and trusted me, despite all of my mishaps, my mistakes, and the mistakes I have made before and will make in the future, despite my intentions that may have not come to fruition, and maybe even my lack of integrity. Now, these, of course, are all important things to build. But despite all of that, still would fight for me. That's unconditional love. What I heard today was the voice of unconditional love. And he sounded kind of intense, direct, and angry in that sense. And maybe he doesn't always sound that way, or he, she, whatever it's. But that's what I heard today. And it made me feel good. It made me feel protected. It made me feel worthy. it made me feel loved, that there's something out there that is really fighting for me, that really believes in me, and really trusts in me, and really puts their energy into me, and is allowing me to walk this path that I'm on, to realize that I have my power. I can take my power back, and I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to live in fear. That I can live in love, that I can be grateful, that I can forgive myself and other people, that no matter how crazy this world seems right now, we're all in this together and we're all protected. I can't drive that point home enough. We are all so loved and protected. We are all so loved and protected. It's insane. It would nauseate some of you how much it is, because that's how intense it is. But it's incredible. It's a miracle, because you are a miracle, beloved. You are a miracle. You think about life. Life is a miracle. It's like we can explain it with science and these different sort of things, and science has a certain place and whatever like that, and that's good. But then it's like when you think about it, man, this is a whole crazy spiritual experience. You're telling me that this person and this person can get together and they can do the thing, and then suddenly she's growing another being inside of her, and then that being's birthed, and then they grow up and have these. That's magical. That's a miracle. That one little swimming tadpole thing reached this tiny, almost microscopic egg inside of this person, and then like they're beating out millions of other ones, mind you. And then it proliferates and just evolves into this being that has these great experiences and, has this incredible connection to source, even though we've forgotten it, but now we're remembering. It's a miracle. Life is a miracle. This whole experience is a miracle. And it's like we're all so loved and so protected. There was even an element today where I was like my fear of death. It's funny because I'm a Scorpio, right? But like my fear of death, like an element of it, like a good bit of it was like lifted today. Because I was like, of course you don't want to leave behind your loved ones and stuff like that. But I was just like, I guess for me, it's like I don't want it to be painful. I don't want to be suffering. I don't want to be in pain. But then it happens and you're on the other side and you don't have to feel that pain anymore. Even though they're trying to pass off this bullshit reality that, based like, yeah, no, not true. You do have karma based off of certain things that you do. It will affect you in the next life, but you don't have to go to a place where you're just in pain all the time. Okay. That's an illusion. That's a fucking illusion. Now, I will say that place is a mental place and it does exist, quote unquote, but I use that term loosely because you can go to hell and you don't have to spend eternity there. You don't have to spend eternity there. You can decide at any moment to not be there. And I'm speaking that from experience, okay? Because I know I've been there, but I also was like, you know what? I don't have to be. Why do I have to play into this experience so much? How come I have to play into this experience so much? Right? I'm going to choose to experience something else. Life is really a beautiful thing. And I think, despite these crazy times right now, we all have so many things to be grateful for, of course. And we all are so powerful and we're all so protected and loved. And a lot of us are being groomed for these positions that we will take on upon leaving this earthly plane. And it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be very powerful. And of course, with the Aries energy there, it is going to kind of spark up a bit of a new spiritual war because we are in spiritual warfare. I'm not going to try and paint a pretty, like a super pretty picture, whatever like that, and tell you it's all rainbows and sunshine. No, this is going to be rather intense. Aries is war, so it is war. But like I said, the cool thing about this is that when they come into that square, and by the time that Pluto reaches Aries, Neptune will actually be coming into Cancer. So there will be an incredible amount of spiritual healing that is going to take place. It's already happening now, but post 20, like I would say like 64, 65, an incredible amount of spiritual healing is going to come. But like I said, but that square to Pluto, it may be a little tough. It may be a little tough. And, of course, I can even look, where Chiron's going to be. Chiron actually by that time is going to be back over in Pisces. So, yeah. Y'all remember the last time that Chiron was in Pisces? We just got that energy. We just got that energy. Chiron's going to come back around and it's going to hit up Pluto in the 2070s. I want to say it's going to be the 2070s, right? If I just go forward a bit. Yeah, by the end of the 2060s, by the end of that decade, they're going to come into Chiron will be on top of Pluto. And of course, wow, would you look at this? Saturn's going to be opposing this energy in Libra, which is definitely going to be another one of those moments with these new angels and gods where there's going to be this sort of energy of picking sides. And then, of course, you got Neptune there in Cancer squaring both of those energies, right? Uranus will be in Sag at that time. It's going to be very interesting to see where people's alignments are going to go, what side they align with, love or fear. Because here's the thing, guys, we've been playing this game for eternity. And honestly, we will probably continue to play this game for eternity. We will continue to play this game for eternity. Because there are aspects of both that do serve us in a sense, But it is love that will always reign supreme, and it always will. But we play both sides of the coin. Some of us have played, the good side. Some of us have played the bad side. I know I play both sides. A lot of times when I'm like playing certain games, especially if it's like fighting games, whatever like that or something, a lot of times I like to pick the darker characters anyways. I resonate with them, right? I don't know, maybe that's my Scorpio sun in the 12th house. But this is a huge moment, guys. Well, if we just bring it back to present day, that's in the future. That's the 2060s. We'll get there. We'll get there. Utilize this time to take your power back. Utilize this time to realize that you are protected. Utilize this time to realize that you are loved beyond measure, beyond any kind of measure. The love that God has for you is infinite. It can't be broken. It can't wane. It can't, be limited. It can't decrease in its intensity, only the perception of such. When we ourselves choose to move away from that light, from God's love, we made those choices. And God allows us to do that because God knows that everyone will eventually come back. No matter how far away they fall into the shadows, you are never truly disconnected. That's what I believe. You are never truly disconnected. No matter how far you fall away. Because when you even if you do fall away into these different, like these shadows and these groups, whatever like that may seem a little far away from it all, there are still people within those that are on their individual experiences and journeys, and they can become a sort of love or unconditional love within that space and then kind of help bring the group back. That's another thing, So, like how the whole, Lucifer, Satan getting kicked out of heaven, but how Lucifer / Satan, whatever you want to call that energy, is actually going to return to heaven too. You don't hear about that. You only hear about him getting kicked out. You don't hear about his return because he is going to return. Yeah, crazy stuff. Dang, I've been going for 40 minutes. Y'all actually like listening to my crazy stuff? We are in unprecedented times. We really are. We needed the shakeup because we have been living in such a way for such a long time that was just really not conducive to our true nature. And now we have collectively manifested a situation that's going to rock the entire world and wake us all up and wake us up into what is true. We have a lot of things to work through. We have some mud to kind of trek through, right? It's not just going to be easy breezy. But each and every one of us can make a choice right now to realize and embrace that unconditional love that God has for us. I say God because that's the only word I really have for it. The universe, energy, spirit, the one love, the only love. It's really ineffable. Words really fail to, grasp and explain what it is. We only get like a small little sliver of a microscopic like iceberg to know really what's going on, right? But despite that microscopic sliver that we've gotten, we've achieved some pretty incredible ass things. If you really think about it, we have achieved some pretty incredible ass things as humans. Yeah, we're not. I mean, at least coming into the experience, and because we're playing this human experience. We're human, but we're not human. But we are still under the conditions of this human experience. But this human experience has done some pretty incredible things and will continue to do pretty incredible things that will be more aligned to nature in the future. But right now, we kind of have to work through these things. But the best way that you can really see this is through some type of art form, maybe music, or maybe you see an art piece or you read a book and it just captures you in that energy. It's just inspiring. You get chills. You may cry a little bit. That's an amazing thing that we're able to channel and co-create. And we can do more of that. We actually have the power to shape society in any way that we see fit. The problem is that we've been trying to shove a square block into a star space. We've been trying to, and we've had to shave down this block to try and fit it in, but it doesn't feel whole. That's the problem. I'm literally getting the image of those little things where you have the blocks, you put them inside of a shape, like those little kitty baby things. That's what we've been doing. You saw this, there's a star shape there, a star shaped block. And instead of putting that star shaped block, which is the entirety of humanity, into that block, realizing that we are all one, we have our individuality, but we're all one. We took a square and we keep trying to shove it into that space. And the only way that it'll fit is to cut up the square. And some people got bigger portions of the square than others. But if we had just put the original block into that piece, the natural piece, we wouldn't be as fragmented as we are now. But that's all going to change. It's all going to change very soon. Right now. It's happening right now. I'm sure you can feel it. Anyways, I'm going to leave it right there. I love you all so much. I'll take care. Stay blessed. Realize that you are protected and loved. Realize that there is a rise of new gods and angels. And that you never lost your power to begin with. You never lost it to begin with. Love you all so much. Y'all stay care, stay blessed, have a beautiful week, and I will see you all very soon. Very, very soon.